Hello and welcome to another House of Wisdom lightest and best knife review video, and today we're looking at the lightest and best knife from VDK Knives. VDK Knives was started by Vlad Domagirov in 2016. He resides in Hershey, Pennsylvania. He has made two other models before the Pharaoh, the War Admiral and the Pioneer of the Nile. Now the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh takes some design cues from Pioneer of the Nile. It has carbon fiber bolsters with a bolster lock. It has a tapered handle, and the titanium is curved and contoured with a satin-like finish, just like the Pioneer of the Nile. The pivot collars look just like the Pioneer of the Nile, and the handle cutouts are similar in that you have a cutout for your first and second finger, and then for the other two fingers later. Vlad has his knife manufactured by We Knives in China, which is a high-end, high-quality production knife company. We'll talk about the specifications. The blade length is 2.625 inches. The handle is 4 inches. The total knife length is 6 inches, 0.625. The weight of the knife is 3.6 ounces. And now for some size comparisons. We have the other Persian blade, the Zero Tolerance 0460, which is a little larger. We have the Spyderco Dragonfly, which is a little smaller. We have the Lion Steel TRE, which is around the same size to just a little bit larger. And we have the Microtech UTX 70, which is a little smaller. We have the Ontario Rat 2, which is a little larger, and the Benchmade Mini Griptilian, which also is a little larger. The blade is made of a S35VN steel. It has a flat ground on it, and it has a Persian-style upswept configuration. There are other knives who've recently put out upswept configurations in the Persian style. Here we see the Zero Tolerance 0460, which also has a Persian style blade, although its upsweep is not as dramatic as the Pharaoh. This one comes in a satin finish, but you can also order a polished or a stonewash finish. It has a generous sharpening ricasso, but I'm going to say it's not large enough to be a forward finger choil. The method of deployment of the knife is by flipper, and it flips out very well. It also has a thumb stud, but it's difficult. You can get it out, but it's difficult to get it out by the thumb stud. Whenever you have a dual deployment method knife, there's a fine line that you have to walk, and this one is such that it is a great flipper but only a modestly good thumb stud deployer. And I try to deploy the flipper as softly as I can, and I cannot make it fail because the detent is so strong. And that's a hard line to walk. There's another knife that tried to walk that line, the TRE by Lion Steel. It's deployed with a thumb disc and a flipper, and they chose to go the other way. They chose to make a light detent, and as a result it is a poor flipper. You can make it fail every time if you want to, but if you flip it hard you can make it work. But the thumb disc on this is really a joy, and it's easy to flip it out with a thumb disc. So on the detent, if you want it to flip well with a thumb stud or a thumb disc, you want to have a light detent. If you want it to flip well, you want a strong detent. And so that's one of the design challenges that Vlad had to make. And he chose to make this a great flipper and a poor thumb stud deployer. That's just a choice you have to make. The handle is made of titanium with carbon fiber bolsters, and he has both an upper and a lower bolster, a dual bolster configuration. The back spacer has a gear-shaped pattern, which if you're in a reverse grip gives you a good grip. Also, he has a lanyard post which is protected by the back spacer. And one of the design compromises they made is because the blade stays well away from the lanyard post, the blade to handle ratio is not very great on this knife. For a 4-inch handle, it only has a 2.6-inch blade. The pivots on the knife are ceramic bearings, and the detent is very strong, as I've already mentioned. The lock on the knife is a bolster lock. What a bolster lock is basically it is a frame lock that has a bolster as an over travel stop. On this lock there is a lock bar insert, so there is no lock stick whatsoever, and this carbon fiber bolster prevents the frame lock from over traveling, so that's why it's a bolster lock. The clip on the knife I think is very well done. It is a 3D milled titanium clip that is embedded, and because it's embedded it can have a single screw construction, which is one of my favorite configurations. It is for tip up right hand carry only, and that keeps aesthetically the show side untampered with and undamaged. The clip is done right because, as you can see, it rests on the frame, not on the lock bar, so you can grip the knife and the clip does not press on the frame lock. The ergonomics of the knife are great. There aren't any hot spots. They have a cutout for your first finger and your second finger, and then the other two follow like that. And as you can see, there is contouring of the titanium as well as the carbon fiber so that it is more rounded and feels more like gripping a baseball bat. The construction is a 3/4 flow-through design. There is a back spacer, but it's placed posterior enough that you can still clean out the inside should you so desire. The blade travel stops are internal, and I'll make sure that I can see if I can show this to you. You see there is a little track cut there, and the blade stops are on the blade tang itself, and then they run into the end of the track, and that's what stops the knife both in the open and the closed position, much like the hinder or half track does. The action on the knife is great whenever you're considering the flipper component. The detent is strong, makes it a great flipper, and sadly it makes the thumb studs unusable or difficult to use. I really have to strain down to get the knife to deploy with its thumb studs. The signage on the knife is minimal. The only signage on the show side is the VDK logo on the blade, and on the clip side there is no signage whatsoever. Well done, Vlad. The value on the knife is great. If you got it on a pre-order, it costs $250. Regular price if you buy it from a retailer is $299. So what are my impressions about the Pharaoh from VDK Knives? I really like it. Are there opportunities for improvement? Certainly. This is just a personal one probably, but I really like the flipper action because the detent is so strong, but because that design choice was made, it is really hard to use the thumb stud, and that's just a downside. It's a design decision. I've even heard reviewers say that they even preferred the thumb stud method of deployment. For me, it's just a little bit hard. What I like about it, well, I love the uniqueness of it. It has a Persian style upswept blade. The handle is rounded and sculpted and uses dual carbon fiber bolsters. It has a bolster lock, which is not very common. They use high quality materials, titanium and carbon fiber on the handles. The blade is a super steel S35 VN. And they have a great OEM manufacturer in WE Knives. I've been very impressed with WE Knives' quality, and other manufacturers or designers have used them as their OEM manufacturers, namely Jerry Irwin and most recently Todd Beggs. Todd initially for his Steelcraft series used Riot knives to make the mini bodega, but now he switched over to WE Knives whenever he had his glimpse come out. So WE Knives is recognized among designers as being a high-quality OEM manufacturing company to win. So, in summary, this knife is interesting. It's not like all the other knives. The Persian-style blade, the rounded contour handles, dual bolsters, a bolster lock, the steel lock bar insert, the super steel S35 VN. It's got an excellent designer, an excellent OEM manufacturer. The Pharaoh is the lightest and best from VDK Knives. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next House of Wisdom Lightest and Best video.